the way the season started and based on the way they went into the break, kind of with that last day of school mentality against Phoenix. Did you expect them to win the first three games and then do it in the way that they have?
Well, I mean, okay, first of all, the Portland game without Lillard and without Grant, going into that, knowing that, I was like, okay, you can't have to win this game. And you also go into OKC a couple nights ago expecting to win that game. But that Clipper game was like a big, circle on the calendar. Clippers had the same amount of wins going into that game as the Kings, not far behind them in the standings, obviously, just a couple more losses. So you had to go into their place and get a win. And I mean, 3-0. I guess that is a little better than what I probably would have thought. Maybe I would have said maybe 2-1. So it has been kind of a nice surprise just coming out of that All Star break, especially after that trade deadline and the Western Conference getting better in general. And so it's like, okay, you got to start winning games, and the pressure, it was put on a little more with how good the West started to get. And so to come out of that All Star break, just with the Western Conference being so tight too in the standings, and the Kings not having a lot of wiggle room to lose a couple games. It's been awesome to see him win all three.
Even beyond like wins and losses, just taking into what's 48 times three. Well, I guess it wouldn't be 48 times three because they played double overtime on Friday. But just looking at all the minutes played by the Kings, they look so engaged and locked in. And they're like, obviously, there were some moments where they weren't that. Like Sunday's game against the Thunder, that third quarter was a bit of a lapse there, allowing 40 points. And then there's various things here and there, but for the most part, and you can go through each of them, noting you have to win this game against Portland, given the circumstances of it, getting in late, all their best players are not playing. No, they went in there and they handled their business. It seems so trivial, but that was a big deal. And it set the stage for what they were able to do against Los Angeles, beating the Clippers in LA. That was such a huge game with all the emotion and all the players, all the commentators, all the analysts, even Mike Brown pointed out, like, you come off a win like that, it's easy to take a day off. And they didn't. And aside from a few moments where, basically a team that never gives up, that being the Thunder, got a few punches in on the Kings did a pretty good job of, again, handling the business in Oklahoma City. And so in a lot of ways, like, I don't know if surprised is the right word, but to be able to kind of string together such a great stretch of basketball in terms of not just like execution and whatnot, but just intent, being present, that's huge for a team that we talk about a lot being inexperienced, a team that hasn't been here before, the team that's near the top of the Western Conference for good reason. They have one of the best offenses in the league. And, they're putting up such a massive amount of points per game and having historic games like they did on Friday against the Clippers that you could almost argue that they're one of the most historically significant offenses in NBA history. But I won't sit here and make that argument. I guess the point is that the way that they're playing in these, and it's 3 games, 3 games out of 82, but it's really tying together a lot of things that we've seen and we've talked about before through the first, 60 games of the year. And we've always talked about this team being resilient, not quitting, coming together through adversity, responding to that kind of stuff, whether or not it comes out with a win. Just to be able to, again, see them just tie it all together, it really makes you think that, this team, despite being inexperienced, they have a lot of the makings to succeed in the playoffs potentially. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Like these are becoming more high pressure games, right? More significant kind of games. And although you can never, replicate a playoff game, this is just a good sign that the Kings are winning games. And I mean, even that Friday game that's probably as close as you can get to a playoff atmosphere on the road. Just for preparation and seeing for the Kings to come out and win that game. I think it's a sign for good things to come. They're resilient. I don't even know how they won that game. The Sixers. The Clippers shot like they made franchise record 26 threes on 60% shooting at home and scored 175 points. You gonna tell me that the Kings walked out of that game with a win on the road?
Mm-hmm.
It's insane.
Right.
And so I don't know. I think that's just awesome. That now that we're nearing the end of the season, kind of making our way. I mean, there's what, a month and a month and 2 weeks left of the year, 22 games left, right? So now that we're getting itching closer to the playoffs, it's nice to see the Kings, not really fall off. They're winning the games they need to, and they went in and had a tough game against the Clippers and still came out with the W. So yeah, maybe they may not have any playoff experience, and of course that's going to be a factor when the playoffs begin. But I think this is a good sign right now that okay, they got it in them to possibly succeed in the first year of the playoffs, or their first time making the playoffs, I guess, and this drought or as this team.
Yeah, we've seen like little signs of this team responding and kind of tightening up when the moment calls for it. And like now it's time to do it. You're pointing out Western Conference gets better, all this stuff. You're getting into these games that really do matter and carry an atmosphere and a feel to it that is about as close to the playoffs as you can get. And the Kings are doing what they need to do. And it's a good sign of what's to come. And it's despite not having experience, it's like that's about the best thing you can have going into it. And
Mm-hmm.